What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick and I hope you guys are doing well whenever you're checking out the latest video here on the channel. Today we have another fantastic top 10 video for you guys. Not just any top 10 video, a top 10 TV related video, of course, from the posters behind me, you can tell. And this is going to be a list that I've been wanting to make for quite some time here. This is a top 10 comfort TV shows list for me. This is going to be very, very subjective, of course. These are just my opinion, as always here. But feel free to let me know what are some of your favorite top 10 comfort TV shows there in the comments. Any show that you come to when you're just not feeling your best, or when you've had a long kind of strenuous day and you just need something to kick your feet up to, just relax to after a long day of work, or you're just trying to get away from the news or something that's bothering you. These are the shows that I turn to when I need that pick-me-up here, and we have 10 of them for you guys, and some honorable mentions that we're going to start off with here. Arguably, one of these honorable mentions may be the most surprising based on where it's placed here, because I talk about this series all the time here, but our first show up for today is going to be Law & Order SVU, or really any of the Law & Orders in question. It could be the OG, or it could be Organized Crime, of course, is great here. The reason why this is only an honorable mention and not on the list proper is because some of the storylines can be very heavy-handed with these. It can be very serious. They can be, directly tied to real events, and sometimes that's just not really what you're in the mood to watch. As you'll see throughout this list, generally for me, it definitely has a comedy sort of theme to it, because that's what I generally turn to when I want something comforting when it comes to TV. But still, these shows absolutely phenomenal. I could binge through Law & Order all day long there. I've actually done so before. If you've ever seen Ion, of course, they play Law & Order SVU all Saturday for marathon all day. So definitely caught myself watching through it all day a couple times before. But yeah, absolutely phenomenal series. Definitely a comfort show for me. Next up here is Impractical Jokers. This is just one when you just want to laugh, man. When you just need something that'll get you giggling here, you turn to Impractical Jokers, one of the best true TV shows of all time there. You can just find the segments on YouTube, of course. They have a whole channel dedicated to the segments and the punishments, of course, which is everyone's favorites from the show. But yeah, the four guys there, Murr, Q, Joe, and Sal, they can get me laughing all day long, man. There's definitely been times where I've just, found myself in a rabbit hole on YouTube watching through clips of the show. Absolutely hilarious. So another audible mention here. Next up, we have the Goldbergs on this list here as well. Another one of my favorite sitcoms. Family-oriented sitcom, of course, so has some of those values to it, has some great emotional moments as well, but another great sitcom that you just can, relax to, just laugh your problems away with. Absolutely fantastic. The Simpsons as well, an honorable mention here. This is one that I've been coming home to on Sundays when I get off of work. I'm usually coming home and this is usually on, and me and my family will watch it together. Matt, of course, is huge on the Fox Animation Domination lineup, so we watch that every week, and The Simpsons is a fan favorite as always here. 30 years on TV. Here's hoping to another 30 here, because the series is just as good now as it was back in the day. Absolutely fantastic series. And of course, we could not forget about another fantastic animated show for this list, SpongeBob here, another honorable mention. You can see the poster right above me there. Absolutely fantastic series as well here. Arguably the most quotable show of all time there from me and many of my peers' childhoods growing up in the 2000s there. Such a classic Nickelodeon show that you can't go wrong with. And my last honorable mention here before we get into the list proper is What I Like About You. This is a show that I've been watching a lot recently. I've been watching a ton of Dan Schneider related stuff, and quite a few of them are on this list, including What I Like About You, which is Amanda Bynes, of course, and Jenny Garth from the early 2000s. I think that season 1 of the show is just so iconic, so classic there. So many memorable episodes and characters that you can come back to, of course. My favorite is probably Jeff. Simon Rex, of course, is great on the show. Just a true comedian at heart. So that's definitely one of the most positive aspects to the show, in my opinion. But yeah, definitely one that I can come back to and rewatch when I need that pick-me-up. Definitely deserving to be on a comfort shows list. So those are my 6 honorable mentions here. But now it is time to get into into the top 10 proper, beginning with number 10 here, one of the most iconic daytime game shows of all time, Family Feud, my friends. Family Feud, arguably the best in its genre. It is my favorite personally of any of these daytime game shows over something like Jeopardy or The Price is Right or, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, anything like that. I pick Family Feud in a heartbeat here, whether you're watching the old school with Richard Dawson or the new school with Steve Harvey, of course, is great as well. This is one that me and my family usually watch when we're having dinner together. Matt is, huge on Family Feud as well, so me and him will sit down and watch a couple episodes at a time, and they play it literally every day, so you can watch it, when you're just, trying to relax after work or, like I said, over dinner and stuff. Makes for some fun entertainment while you're watching. And the great thing about it is, of course, you can watch and play along with it, which is the best part about any game show. That's usually one of the big criterias in how a game show is going to do, as far as how popular it's going to be based on how well the audience can play along with it. A show like Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, Millionaire, all of those have just become absolutely huge over the past few decades because they have those implementations in them where you can play along and you can answer the questions, or on Wheel of Fortune or something, solve the puzzles, and on Family Feud, of course, can play along with the contestants there. Makes for a great half hour of TV. You really can't go wrong with it. So a definite comfort show coming in at number 10 here. At number 9 here, we have a super iconic Dan Schneider Nickelodeon classic in the form of Drake and Josh here. Had to include this one on the list as I've been rewatching it a ton lately. Obviously, everything with Drake Bell and sort of his controversies aside, if you just brush past that, this is a true classic amongst Nickelodeon sitcoms here. Of course, you have Drake playing Drake Parker here and Josh playing Josh Nichols here. Great brothers with tremendous chemistry together. And then the rest of the family, of course, with Megan, their sister, played by Miranda Cosgrove, one of my favorites, and then their mom, Audrey, and their dad, Walter, of course. Walter, one of the best side characters in all of TV, man, one of the best supporting characters. Oh, man, so many memorable episodes with Walter alone, just to count off. Of course, him being a weatherman and the running gag that he always gets the weather report wrong, and it always backfires for him, just always puts a smile on my face. And the episode The Affair from season 3, I was just rewatching the other day, where Drake and Josh suspect that he is cheating on their mom, so they kind of investigate, and they catch him at the restaurant, and they just hurl the meatball at him, and they fucking try to assassinate him with that damn meatball, man. That was so uncalled for, so that's one of my favorites. But yeah, and he just, you can just talk about it with friends or so, or just another one that you can quote so much. Just like literally every episode, man. I was just telling Mike about this, like, every episode of the show has a direct quote or line that is just instantly memorable, man, that you can just spew out. Have those inside jokes with your best buds, which is great. So yeah, Drake and Josh for sure. If you couldn't tell already, I'm just laughing about just thinking about this show. Has to go on this list for sure. At number 8 here, we have another Dan Schneider show. I told you there was going to be quite a few of them here, and this one is going to be iCarly, and I'm also going to include iCarly 2021 on this list, the reboot here, that I have just been absolutely loving so far. Season 2 was released back in April and has been, releasing throughout every Friday here, so that's when I usually get to watch it. And coming home from work again, this is one that I always turn to when I just need to, relax and just kind of stew away my problems and just get with iCarly and the gang, of course. Just super, super memorable quotes from this one as well here with Spencer, of course, probably my favorite character from the show. Just so many memorable moments with these side characters as well, like Tebow is fantastic and Gibby is fantastic as well in the later seasons. But for me, man, really comes down to those big event episodes. These are the ones that I watch pretty much, whenever I'm rewatching the show. These are the ones I turn to first. Like, I go to Japan, I party with Victorious, I Saved Your Life, probably my favorite episode of the whole show, and I Goodbye, of course, one of the best TV finales out there. Super, super great way to bookend and, end the series that just defines so many of our childhoods here. So a nostalgic throwback for sure. iCarly coming in hot at number 8. At number 7 here, one of my favorite sketch comedy shows of all time here, and one that I never miss week to week here. We have Saturday Night Live here. I know this is a little bit of a controversial pick because there's quite a few people out there that don't really like SNL all that much anymore, which is understandable because there are definitely some hit or miss qualities with this. Pretty much sketch comedy in general can be hit or miss. So, I can understand if you're not that big on this show, understandably so. But for me, at least, I mean, there is just so much legacy and so much history with this show. Whether you're watching classic sketches from the 70s with cast members like John Belushi or Gilda Radner or Chevy Chase or Dan Aykroyd, all those classic names. Throughout the 90s, of course, with people like Mike Myers, Chris Farley, Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, of course, one of my favorites as well. And then the modern day group with people like Bowen Yang is great. Pete Davidson, of course, is hilarious. The Weekend Update guys right now, Michael Che and Colin Jost, are probably my favorite from Weekend Update that they've ever had. Just so many big names that have come out of SNL for so long, and so many memorable sketches and characters. Recently I was going back, and on their YouTube channel, you can pretty much find any sketch they've ever made on SNL on YouTube now for free, which is incredible considering how long the show's been on. But they have just a playlist of all the commercial parodies they've done, and there are just so many funny ones, man, that you can just watch through for hours on end, man. You can just watch through the great food commercial parodies, like one of my favorites is Taco Town. I was just watching, man, that is a great sketch for sure with Andy Samberg on that one. That is hilarious. Definitely check that out. So for me, SNL here at number 7 for my favorite comfort shows. Next up at number 6 here, this is definitely going to be, I think, very surprising for most people watching this who know me or my taste in TV, because this next show, you're probably wondering, why is it so low and only at number 6 when it is your favorite show of all time? That is right, we have How I Met Your Mother on this list here at number 6. And that is a good question, why is this so low, considering that I literally talk about this one in every single video, and I always hype it up as my number 1 favorite TV show. Well, because of the fact that a lot of the time on How I Met Your Mother, it seemingly has a lot more of those emotional moments and a lot more of those dramatic elements to it than most typical sitcoms. And like I said earlier, there aren't really that many dramas on this list, and that's for a reason, because a lot of those moments are just really raw or, hit close to home for some people, and that's just not really something you want to see after a very long day of work, or just something you want to, relax to or just chill out with. And so for sometimes, those moments just don't really hit all that well, because that's just something you want to avoid. There's some episodes, for example, the one where Marshall's dad passes away, Marvin, of course. I mean, that is a super emotional episode that is great. Don't get me wrong, that is a phenomenal episode of television, but for some days, when you're just stressed out and you just want to, chill out with something, that is just the last thing you want to see, So there's just examples like that, for instance, where, it's just something you just tend to avoid more or less. And some of these other comedies are just more focused on the humor first and the story elements second. Even recently, I've seen some people online refer to How I Met Your Mother more as a drama than a sitcom even. So if it's bleeding out to the fan base like that, that's just one of the reasons why it's a little bit lower on this list than maybe some people would have expected it to be. But even still, you cannot go wrong with some of those classic episodes, man. I mean, there are some that are just full-on comedies for sure. Like one of my favorites I was watching recently was Subway Wars, man. That is a hilarious episode. The running gag with Maury Povich in that one, absolutely you cannot go wrong with that at all. So, How I Met Your Mother here at number 6. Coming in hot at number 5 here, we have one of the most overlooked, underrated shows from the 90s and the early 2000s. We're talking about the Kevin James-led sitcom, The King of Queens here. Man, I absolutely adore this show. This one is super, super underappreciated, in my opinion. I don't know why so many people hate this show so much. In fact, my good buddy Joe up at work, me and him talk about TV every once in a while, and he has told me flat out that this is his least favorite show of all time, which I just cannot get behind at all because I love this show to death. I could rewatch this one infinitely. And this one hits very close to home for me, at least when it comes to this topic of just being comforting and just, something that you can turn to when you're just not feeling your best, because this was the show that I watched more than any other during the quarantine and the height of the pandemic here just last year. My buddy Mike over at Mike's Talks and Thoughts had recently gotten me the box set of King and Queens, the entire season, or the entire series rather. So that was a show that I was definitely coming back to over the course of the lockdown and the pandemic. That was just very stressful, and you're just very uncertain of what was going to happen, of course. And so this was definitely a show that I was coming back to all the time here, just kind of, forgetting about my day, forgetting about my problems, and just watching a couple episodes at a time just to relieve some of that anger and frustration that you were having during the pandemic there. So yeah, that one is definitely a reason why it goes up high in the top 5 here for my top 10 favorite comfort shows. At number 4 here, the series that of all the ones on this list I have seen through the most of any other on this list all the way through. I've been watched this show probably at least 3 or 4 times from start to finish. We have Mike and Molly here, another fantastic CBS comedy here. This one starring Billy Gardell and Melissa McCarthy as the 2 lead characters there. This is absolutely a top tier show for me in every capacity. So many great episodes and characters on this show. Literally every character does a phenomenal job here, including my man Vince here, which I cannot get enough of that guy. Vince is probably my favorite character from the show and easily a top 10 favorite from any sitcom ever. I just absolutely love that guy. Just some of the hijinks he gets into with Joyce on the show is hilarious. But there's some great side characters, like Harry is great. Samuel from Abe's, the restaurant they go to, is fantastic. There's some characters that I'm not really that big on, like Victoria is probably my least favorite, but even then I think Katie Mixon as an actress is great on the show, and I think she did a really good job. And then I've seen her on some other series as well, like Eastbound and Down. I know she's gotten a lot of recognition for her work on that one, but just overall, any way you slice it, man, Mike and Molly, what a top tier show. Another one that's very, very underrated, man. Definitely urge you guys to check it out if you can. Definitely another one that deserves high marks in this top 10. And we come down to the final 3 shows here. These last 3 honestly could be rearranged in any order depending on what day it is or what my mood is here. These could change, but these are always a go-to. Like anytime I'm feeling stressed out and not feeling myself, these are the 3. These are the big kahunas here that I always turn to. Starting with number 3 here, which isn't even just one show, but an entire genre of TV. We have any cooking shows on this list here because I couldn't narrow it down to just one. There are just too many to pick from, but you guys know anything to do with cooking or food-related culture in shows or especially online on YouTube. So many great YouTube shows as well that deal with cooking. That is my go-to here. Whether you're watching a competition show like MasterChef or Hell's Kitchen or Chopped or something like that, or just a basic stand and stir show, travel show like Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives is great. Man vs. Food is excellent. And then those great web shows like all the great YouTube chefs out there, Binging with Babish, Joshua Weissman, David Seymour, Ethan Chalbowski, Adam Ragusea. Like, there are just so many to pick from, man. They are all so phenomenal. I mean, even in just, outside of TV and stuff, I just love to cook, love to, experiment with different dishes and make dinner for my friends and family. They can definitely attest to that. And, get so inspired watching these shows all the time, seeing what other people do with these recipes and different dishes they make, and then trying it for yourself and kind of tweaking it for your own preferences. Just always a really fun time to see, and just something that you can get very invested and very lost in, that can take your mind off of whatever's going on or stressing you out there. And then it, of course, if you do it right, then you have a great meal to have as well, which is food is the ultimate equalizer, man. Whenever you're stressed out, I mean, that's the one thing that's always going to make you feel better for sure. So, and then cooking shows can do it just as much. So for me, they had to be included in this top 3 here without question. Our runner-up today, taking the silver medal, is one of the all-time greats when it comes to adult animation here. We already talked about The Simpsons, but there's one that I think just barely ekes it out here for the top spot. and that is going to be Family Guy here. That's right, the Seth MacFarlane masterpiece it is. Family Guy is super iconic here. Of course, one of Matt's favorites, and we've talked about it so many times on the channel here, but you really cannot go wrong at all with those classic Griffin family characters, man. Peter, Lois, Chris, Meg, Brian, and Stewie. How could you go wrong with any of those guys there? Especially the Brian and Stewie episodes, man. There is one episode of Family Guy, which is my favorite episode, Back to the Pilot from season 10, which I think I've seen more, arguably, than any other TV episode. I've probably seen it upwards of 20 times. I'm not even exaggerating. And each and every time, it gives me so much joy, man. I can laugh the whole way through it, that one, and it never gets tired, never gets stale for me. Absolutely love it. The Road to episodes as well, like Road to Vegas is great. Road to Germany is hilarious, where they get more caught up in their schemes as well. It's hilarious. Really, any of the Brian Stewie episodes, like I said, I can turn to as well. So many running gags on this show that you can get lost in, like Ernie the Giant Chicken is great. The Kool-Aid Man is great. So many guest characters, side characters as well. You can make a whole top 10 list on just, the best side characters from Family Guy alone. There's so many to pick from. But any way you slice it, man, Family Guy had to go up in this top 10 here. Coming up just a hair short to my number one favorite comfort show of all time, which is Modern Family here. Had to include this at the top spot here today because this is a show that not only I grew up with when I was, a kid and watching as an adult now, but it's just so relatable. You have those great family-oriented aspects to it, making sure that everybody understands their role and just kind of treating each other really well and just kind of growing up and learning about the world with your family is always just super relatable and just super awesome to see how the show kind of approaches that subject. It's very diverse, of course. It has a lot of those emotional elements that I feel like don't get in the way as much as some of the other shows on this list, but actually enhance it really well, which is great. But then the comedy forward as well, so subtle with some of the humor and the performances too that just give so much joy, man. You could watch some of those episodes all the time and again not get stale of them at all. One of my favorites is Express Christmas here. That was actually the very first episode I ever saw of Modern Family from season 3, and right from the get-go, you knew, like right from the very first watch, you knew that this was going to be one of your all-time favorites, man, let me tell you. So yeah, for sure, Modern Family here coming in at number 1 on my top 10 favorite comfort show TV list. Let me know in the comments what you guys would have on your list here. Those shows that you turn to when you're feeling stressed out, when you're not feeling your best. What are those shows that make you feel 100% back up to speed here and give you just so much joy when you're watching them? I'd love to hear what you have to say on that. And with that, have a great rest of your day, everybody, and take care.